Pam Bondi definitely said on Fox News in February that the client list was on her desk. Transparency. I mean, I don't know what more you want from your government. Do you feel like they're laughing at us? I feel like they're laughing at us. We are definitely in clown world.
So Candace Owens recently weighed in on the Trump administration's revelations that suddenly now there's no Jeffrey Epstein client list and there's no evidence that he killed himself. This despite contradicting the claims of some officials within the Trump administration, including Kash Patel and Pam Bondi. Let's hear Candace Owens' take on this. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
But you guys, I want you to be calm. It's all good. Because now the Department of Justice has come out and they say that Jeffrey Epstein, he had no list. The girl has no name. Here it is in Axios. The DOJ, the FBI conclude that Epstein had no client list and he died by suicide. Nothing to see here. And that's what happened. They made that conclusion. They had no evidence that the convicted sex offender and disgraced financier, are we even calling him that? I don't even know how he's allowed to be deemed a financier. That there was no evidence that he blackmailed powerful figures, or that he kept a client list, or that he was murdered, according to the memo. And now if you're thinking, didn't we see when the FBI raided his home that there was a photo and he had all of these tapes? That's a lot of stuff. Yeah, here's another photo. It just seems like he maybe had a lot, but no, guys, that's not, there's nothing that indicates anything at all. Nothing at all.
Yeah, this is absolutely ridiculous. They found a safe within his house that contained those materials. These are known to exist. They've been documented for a long time, and they had CDs printed with names of prominent people on it. He was obviously blackmailing individuals. So the government wants to maintain that Ghislaine Maxwell can get prosecuted and put behind bars for sex trafficking, but there's no victims because apparently he sex trafficked to no one. Even if there's not a list per se, like an official list, if you're going to convict her and charge Epstein, who are you convicting them of criminal activity against? They're literally just destroying the victims here. They're putting them basically in the place of someone that does worse than mock the victims. They're pretending that they don't exist, despite the fact that this woman's behind bars. This is a stunning reversal and contradicts the claims of Bondi, who has said before that not only the client list was on her desk, but also that she was reviewing videos that contained thousands of hours of him molesting children. And now they're just putting out this statement to sweep this under the rug. This is criminal.
And yeah. They also are releasing some raw and enhanced versions of footage of the Manhattan prison where Epstein was held the night that he died. And they say that the video supports the medical examiner's findings that Epstein died by suicide. And the footage is hilarious. Just like one image. They're like, see, no one walks towards his cell. I mean, oh, okay. Here it is, guys. I guess that means since no one entered the cell this way, that it's totally impossible that anybody entered another way. It's totally impossible that anything else happened because look, we're showing you the footage, friends. It's over.
Yeah, this is preposterous unless they give you the fully unedited portion of that footage from the entire duration of the night and footage within Epstein's cell itself. They will not give that. For a while, they said, you know, the cameras malfunctioned because the guards fell asleep. And then Kash Patel went on Joe Rogan's show to essentially say, no, there is footage from the cell in the time in question, and you're going to see it. Well, if they're going to release this as like a segment, I haven't seen the full video, but I'm going to suspect that it's not like a 10-hour portion of video that shows the entire night. And it's, you know, really conclusive, that shows that there is no intrusion, no, you know, tomfoolery or skullduggery involved in any of this. I don't believe it until I see it. They're going to be very selective with what they give you because it's a big club, and let's face it, we're not in it.
Look away. It's I mean, now the nation that cared so much about Jonathan Pollard that they blackmailed Clinton to get him back, to try to get him back. And when that failed, they still were able, by the way, to get Jonathan Pollard. He received a pardon in 2021. Incredible. Guilty. Fully admitted that he is guilty. Israel has admitted that he received a pardon in 2021 from President Trump. I'm not kidding. They said this would go a long way in just healing, tensions between Israel and America. And so,
for those that don't know, Jonathan Pollard was an intelligence analyst that was jailed for literally spying for Israel. He was an Israeli agent within the United States, and he got convicted of that, and then Trump pardoned him in 2021, showing how close Trump is to the Israel lobby. If everything else hasn't indicated that yet, taking money from Adelson, the Abraham Accords, moving the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, shelving U.S. foreign policy objectives to normalize relations with Iran, to go to war with Iran. That's the truth. And, I'm glad that Candace picks up on this and knows this stuff very well.
Even though he was already out of prison, they felt that this next step should be taken, which is to say, just wipe his record clean. And President Trump did that in 2021. And then what Jonathan Pollard did as soon as he got that pardon was he got on a plane and went to Israel and was greeted on the tarmac by President Netanyahu.
Yeah.
Yay! Smiley face. Anyways, it might sound like I don't believe any of this, and I don't want you guys to walk away and have my attitude. I can be a cynic. I'm a conspiracy theorist.
You're not the only one. I think you're in good company, Candace, and you'll be in good company of people watching this channel too.
I've read what the press says about me. So I will first and foremost remind you that this is kind of strange to hear, only because Pam Bondi definitely said on Fox News in February that the client list was on her desk. I mean, I'll let you guys watch the clip of what she said on Fox News. Take a listen.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
So have you seen anything that you said, oh my gosh?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, we'll check back with you.
But think about that. It existed. It was acknowledged to exist, sitting on the desk, a client list. She answered the question directly revolving around a client list. And now there's no evidence that it ever existed. And Americans are just supposed to swallow this, apparently, because, at least it's not Kamala Harris in office, I guess. And we're just supposed to buy this sex trafficking ring that reached to the highest levels of governments, including, the United States and Britain. And we're just supposed to just swallow this hook, line, and sinker. Just like all the other deep state scams like Russiagate and the Jan 6 insurrection hoax. This is just insane garbage, and I hope no Americans continue to buy this nonsense.
And then Alina Habba went on to Piers Morgan in February and said that they had flight logs, information, that they had names. I mean, take a listen.
In this case, in Epstein's case, it is incredibly disturbing. We have flight logs, we have information, names that will come out.
Is it going to be shocking?
I don't see how it's not shocking that there were so many individuals that were hidden and kept secret and not been held accountable. Let's talk about the reverse. I believe in accountability. So you have to now go through your process. Now, I won't say they're guilty until they go through their time in court. But again, now it's time for accountability. We have seen.
It's time for no such thing. There'll be no accountability because the government has slammed the door on any potential for that. This is the most anti-transparent thing imaginable. Viewing Americans are stupid, hyping this stuff up. And what's not going to come to light? The names. So no, Alina, the names are not going to come to be broadcast so that Americans can see it. You know what was broadcast so Americans can see it? A scam folder that said Epstein Files Parts 1, given to conservative influencers, that contained no new information, all historical documents that were well known and already released. This was a PR stunt. And, to what extent the influencers themselves were culpable in, sowing this fraud, this scam, is immaterial. The fact is they're just not releasing this stuff.
For so many years, Pierce, in this country, many investigations, subpoenas, testimonies in Congress, et cetera, et cetera. But there's a general frustration with accountability. We take it halfway, we don't take it home. And I really believe that now with Cash and Pam, there will be accountability.
The narrator says, spoiler, there was no such accountability. There was none of this kind. There was only contradictions. Pam Bondi saying the client list existed, and there were thousands of hours of tape of him molesting children. And then Kash Patel went on Joe Rogan. You know, people just want all these tapes and client lists, but it just doesn't exist. I can't create something that doesn't exist. Watch that film. There's a clear contradiction here, and those two can't even get on the same page of a clear propaganda scheme to hide this from the American people. And bravo, Candace, for covering this. You're a hero for covering this.
Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out my little Men in Black tool, and just wipe your memory real quick. Phew. Phew. She didn't say any of that. Phew. Okay, cool. Now let's run Caroline Leavitt at the White House briefing earlier today. Take a listen.
DOJ and FBI have now concluded there was no Jeffrey Epstein client list. What do you tell MAGA supporters who say they want anyone involved in Jeffrey Epstein's alleged crimes to be held accountable?
This administration wants anyone who has ever committed a crime to be held accountable, and I would argue this administration has done more to lock up bad guys than certainly the previous administration. And the Trump administration is committed to truth and to transparency. That's why the Attorney General and the FBI Director pledged at the President's direction to do an exhaustive review of all of the files related to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes and his death. And they put out a memo in conclusion of that review. There was material they did not release because, frankly, it was incredibly graphic and it contained child pornography, which is not something that's appropriate for public consumption.
Well, what was said before by the Trump administration was some of the information being withheld was for national security concerns. This is a new one, now that you're saying that. And by the way, if that's true, that should never be revealed to the public. But there should be people held accountable for their crimes in doing that. If investigators see that, they should charge these people with crimes, which they're not doing because only Maxwell's going down for this. So, you know, I would not want to be Caroline Leavitt in this press conference. Not that they're going to ask the most pressing questions, this press corps. Maybe if there are some people from the independent media, they have been part of these sessions sometimes, they would be more pressing. But I would not want to be her trying to spin this narrative. You have to, you know, be Al Pacino. You have to be Daniel Day-Lewis giving your best performance, since there will be blood to get out of this one.
But they committed to an exhaustive investigation. That's what they did, and they provided the results of that. That's transparency.
Follow up on that,
Sure.
Caroline. Okay, so the FBI looks at the circumstances surrounding the death of Jeffrey Epstein. According to the report, this systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. So what happened to the Epstein client list that the Attorney General said she had on her desk?
Yeah.
Well, I think if you go back and look at what the Attorney General said in that interview, which was on your network on Fox News.
Got the quote.
Go ahead.
John Roberts said, DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen? And she said, it's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Yes, she was saying the entirety of all of the paperwork, all of the paper in relation to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes.
So that's how they're spinning this. They're saying that she wasn't answering the question regarding the client list, only talking about all the materials in totality. That was a good question, by the way, that reporter asked. That's the line of questioning that should always be asked, and talk about all the other inconsistencies, like the clear photographs of all the media, the CDs with prominent politicians and famous figures' names on them. Clearly the CCTV footage that Epstein was known to have. His relations with foreign governments, including potentially Mossad, because clearly he had connections to Mossad, both through Wexner and through Robert Maxwell, who was Ghislaine Maxwell's father. Clearly, he received a fortune from Wexner for basically just being his tax assistant. You know, he was given hundreds of millions of dollars for that. And it doesn't make sense under any other logic. This is a scheme to bury this story from the American public, and more lines of questioning like that need to be asked.
That's what the Attorney General was referring to, and I'll let her speak for that.
There you have it, you guys. That is transparency. That's transparency. I mean, I don't know what more you want from your government. Do you feel like they're laughing at us? I feel like they're laughing at us. We are definitely in clown world.
Yeah, they are laughing at us for sure. We are in clown world to believe that, you know, we're just going to sit back and be comforted by the fact that, oh, case closed, washing our hands, here we are. We tried to do our best to find who was responsible for these crimes, who the underage ladies were that were trafficked to these individuals. we're going to give it to the American public. We're going to show it to you. They campaigned on this. This was a big cornerstone of Trump's campaign, the idea that Biden had, been too secretive in his operations and his schemes. He wanted to bury information related to, FBI entrapment schemes, like January 6th clearly freaking was, by the way, and the Epstein Files. We're not going to charge anyone outside of Maxwell. No one's going to be held accountable. We won't release anything related to Epstein's personal activities and relations with other governments and other intelligence agencies, perhaps U.S. intelligence agencies, by the way. So yeah, Candace is a hero for covering this story. There are so many inconsistencies in this story. If you wrote a book about this or had a movie about it, people just wouldn't believe it over how big of a cover-up not only this appears, but is proven to be. And I wouldn't just put that out there flippantly. I'm only saying that because even the people within the Trump administration contradict each other on this issue, especially Pam Bondi and Kash Patel. Look at that footage from Pam Bondi, and then look at the footage from Kash Patel on Joe Rogan's show. And someone is clearly not adopting the same propaganda scheme to, make Americans turn their heads away than the other is. And I can't put my finger down on which one it is, if it is Bondi, if it is Kash Patel, if it is underlings in the deep state beneath them that have an immense amount of power over these things. There's no doubt I believe that a lot of the information related to prominent political figures, maybe prominent lobbyists, etc., that were connected to this sex ring have been destroyed by the FBI, shattered into 1,000 winds. They took the hard drive with this information on it and destroyed it, splintered it into 1,000 pieces and scattered it to the winds. I have no doubt that's true, but we know that a lot of this existed. So this is a cover-up here. I'm just not sure where it is. And, the American people are not going to swallow this, especially dissidents. And if Trump already hasn't lost the support of all the dissidents that supported him and voted for him, I really think this story is going to do that, clearly. There's no other reason to put all this information out there, hype it up, even during the beginning of Trump's administration, if this was going to be your endgame, if this was going to be your stunning revelation to conclude it all. It makes Trump look worse for hyping this up. For saying, yeah, we're going to release it. We're going to invite all these conservative influencers to the White House, give them this binder. And, but no, this is part one. There's going to be a part two coming later. And then this to be your grand finale. Well, if this is the grand finale, you're going to lose the support of the American people over this. If Iran didn't do that, if the DOJ facade didn't do that, if bombing Yemen didn't do that, this is going to do that more than anything. And, only the Trump administration's to blame for this. But I hope someday we find answers. There's a whistleblower that happens to know the truth and reveals it. But until that happens, until we get, a new Edward Snowden of our time, I do feel like this is going to get buried. But the best thing that the Americans can do, people following this story, is to make noise about it, clamor about it, cover this story, point it out, hold our officials accountable for their nonsense, lies, and contradictions. But I do want to hear from what you guys think. Let me know down below. What do you think is the cover-up? Where is the cover-up point coming from? The FBI, the DOJ, someone within those organizations? And what are some other inconsistencies that the Trump administration has given over this story? I'd like to hear from you in the comments below. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel. Please subscribe to Candace also. She's great. Thank you for covering this again, Candace. And please consider becoming a YouTube member by clicking join below. Support the channel, and by doing that, you also get access in advance of their release on YouTube, all of my videos. So I really appreciate if you support me that way. And until I see you guys next time, no more war, no more debt, no more inflation, and no more empire. Peace out, guys. I'll catch you in the next one.